Joining me now is Ahmad Shahidov, head of Azerbaijan's Institute for Democracy and Human Rights, to talk to us about recent Armenian attacks on civilians in Nagorno-Karabakh and other major cities there. Good afternoon, Ahmad. Thank you for joining NewsHour.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me in your program.
Now, at least 21 civilians were killed and nearly 70 others were injured in the bloody attack in Barda. Why are Armenian forces attacking civilians, Ahmed? What's your analysis there?
Yes, the situation on frontline remains tense today, and during the day on October 28 and the night on October 29, the Armenian armed forces fired at the positions of the units of the Azerbaijan Army and our human settlements in different directions of the front with various weapons, including artillery and missiles. And the combat operations continued mainly in the Khojavend, Fizuli and Gubadli directions of the front. The Armenians' attempt to attack were resolutely prevented. Among the victims of the Armenian terror act in Barda, there is a volunteer of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Society as well. The 40-year-old father was part of an Azerbaijan Red Crescent Society emergency mobile team and was hit by shelling. So the Armenian army continues to commit war crimes today, and yesterday, for the second time, civilians were shot in Barda city. The Armenian army, which also violated the third ceasefire agreement reached in the United States, cannot accept its failures on the front line and unequivocally fires on our civilians. And yesterday, Barda city came under fire for the second time, and some of Azerbaijani civilians were killed and injured. As you mentioned, in Barda city, number of killed reaching 21 and number of wounded reached already 60. Armenia used cluster munitions to inflict excessive casualties among civilians, and I think it's policy of a state terror by Armenia, because deliberately city center of Barda was targeted. Such attacks are a gross violation of international humanitarian law and existing ceasefire agreements between conflicting sides. And our position is that civilians, children, and the elderly should not be victims of such a tragedy. We are witnessing ethnic cleansing by Armenia against the Azerbaijani people and cultural heritage in general. And because there is a long distance from Barda to Karabakh, it's very far from the war zone. The firing on civilians is, of course, barbaric, and the manifestation of terrorist acts can be considered as a war crime. And the UN also condemns the shelling of settlements outside the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict zone, including the attack on the Azerbaijani city of Barda. And most of attacks, it should be underlined that most of attacks are carried out from the territory of Armenia today. And Azerbaijan has the right to self-defense in accordance with international humanitarian law and the Geneva Convention. And so Azerbaijan reserves the right to take measures against military targets in Armenia.
Okay,
you know,
Ahmed,
this is that.
Ahmed, don't you think that the international community must act to stop Armenia's war crimes? Why do you think Armenia is incessantly violating international law?
Unfortunately, today we are observing the double standards from the international organizations, because since September 27, when the Armenian firing on civil settlements in Azerbaijan, especially in Ganja city, in Tatar, and in Barda city, no international organizations such as OSCE Minsk Group has condemned this violation of international law and violation of ceasefire. That's why Armenia tries to provoke Azerbaijan, and you mentioned about the reason of these provocations. First of all, Armenia tries to keep balance for its failures in battleground, because Azerbaijan army last week launched very successful operations in Nagorno-Karabakh war zone in battleground, and already more than 100 village, Azerbaijani village, liberated from Armenian occupiers. So Armenia tries to make fear and chaos among the Azerbaijani population by shelling civil settlements. This is the first reason, but they cannot achieve this goal completely. And another reason is to provoke Azerbaijan. As I mentioned before, Armenian armed forces use missile attacks exactly from the territory of Republic of Armenia, and by this they try to provoke Azerbaijan, and they want Azerbaijan to destroy these fire points in Armenia, and after they will ask for help to their allies, in special the members of Collective Security Agreement Organization, in particular the Russia, saying that Azerbaijan attacked territory of Armenia. But anyway, Azerbaijan Army continues and operates these only in the territory of Nagorno-Karabakh. Our main aim is to liberate our occupied lands. We don't target any civilians, even the military targets in the territory of Armenia. So this is a very complicated situation, and this is a difference between Azerbaijan and Armenia. We are fighting on the battlefield. We are not waging a war against Armenian civilians, but we are taking measures against legitimate military targets, and this is our culture.
Ahmed, thank you very much for joining the program, and thank you for updating us on the latest situation there. That's all we have time for this hour. I'll leave you with updates in economy, more news and